Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our new show, Seeking Guidance, with Sheikh Kahlan Al Kharusi, the Assistant Grand Mufti of the Sultanate of Oman. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Sheikh Hatim, and I would like as well to welcome all our audience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh Kahlan, we want in the beginning to congratulate the Islamic Ummah on the occasion of the holy month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our fasting, good deeds and supplications.
Ameen. May Allah the Almighty enable us to fast this month as He has asked us to do, and to enable us to reach all the goals and aims that are bestowed upon this month of Ramadan.
Ameen. Sheikh Kahlan, as we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed fasting to this ummah, as well as it has been prescribed to the nations before us. Now, we know from the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed fasting so that we attain piety. But on the other hand, we have the concept of guidance and we have the concept of spirituality. So, does fasting enhance a human being to reach the level of guidance, the level of spirituality, in addition to piety?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praise be to Allah, peace and blessings be upon His last messenger. Indeed, this statement that you have said, Sheikh Hatim, is very accurate, very precise, because we found its roots in the Holy Quran when Allah the Almighty says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. O you who believe, it has been written upon you. And this is a phrase to indicate that something is an obligatory act in Islam. It has been written upon you fasting, as it has been written upon the nations before you. Now, how was it made obligatory upon nations before this nation of Islam? We do not have details, but we do know now that there wasn't any single nation having a messenger from Allah the Almighty and a revelation that their messenger has conveyed to them that is free of some forms of fasting, which makes it very clear, very predictable, that fasting is a human necessity without any exaggeration.
Yes.
Why is that? We are going to discuss this, as you have pointed out, probably and most obviously for spiritual reasons, as it is for reaching righteousness, as it is to fight the eagerness within oneself, the ego, the selfish gene, let's call it.
Yes, in a human being.
In a human being. That this dignified creation of Allah the Almighty is able to show His obedience to the Creator and to abstain from beloved things and matters in his life, to indicate that he can overcome these physical needs for the sake of reaching a higher goal. That's why I said it seems as it is a human necessity, and that's why it has been commanded to nations before the nation of Islam, before a Muslim nation, for how many days, how frequently, what are they going to refrain from? We do not have details. And I think from the practices of people nowadays, we can, as I said, conclude that this is part of the legacy of the revelation of Allah the Almighty to all human beings throughout the history of prophethood.
Yes.
The milestone achievements that Allah the Almighty has bestowed upon fasting the month of Ramadan will not exceed the three major aims that you have rightly pointed out: the spirituality, the guidance, and righteousness.
Yes.
we are going to talk into details. Let's take them one by them. Shall we start with guidance?
First of all, Sheikh, if we can set the order. If a person wants to follow the three or attain the three, where does he start? Does he start with spirituality and then guidance and then piety, or the other way around?
Well, all these three elements are meant to be together. But if we have just for more of an educational process,
yes,
then it is guidance first. Why is guidance first? Because we are guided to obey Allah the Almighty, to show the total submission to the will of Allah the Almighty. And without guidance, we will not be able to reach righteousness. We will not be able to reach the spirituality required or bestowed on fasting.
Yes.
So guidance first. And righteousness is associated with fasting right from day one until the end of the month of Ramadan. And it is not only something that is required to be attached to for the human being to attach himself to righteousness, but it is also the fruit of fasting as the main fruit of all the acts of worship that we are performing is to reach righteousness and piety. Then ultimately it is not the exclusive fruit of fasting, but it is the exclusive fruit of all acts of worship that we are performing. But it is more obvious when it comes to abstaining from all invalidating matters during the month of Ramadan, from dawn to sunset, because as I said, it is a secret or hidden relationship between human being and their creator. Now, for doing actions, others can witness us that we are performing, we are doing. But to refrain from something, to abstain and abandon something, now you cannot prove this because it is not committing something, it is omitting from something. And that's why you cannot prove it.
It's between you and Allah.
It is between you and Allah the Almighty. So this is the key, or this is the secret of being sincere to Allah the Almighty. And sincerity is indeed the key word of righteousness.
So I think it also complements the meaning of the three words, where you have spirituality, guidance, and righteousness. You also added something that is important, which is sincerity.
Absolutely.
How important is sincerity to people? Because they might be doing the practices, they might refrain from doing things, but for the wrong reasons, not for the reasons that Allah has prescribed.
Very good. I'm going to quote a prophetic narration that is well known within Muslims, maybe our audience who are following different faiths or different religions,
yes,
unaware of. This narration, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is ascribing to Allah the Almighty, and that's why it is called Qudusi Hadith. Qudusi Hadith means that the wording is from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the meaning from Allah the Almighty,
yes,
which is different from the Quran, where the wording and the meaning are from Allah the Almighty. In this Qudusi Hadith, it means a narration ascribed, narrated by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he says, Allah the Almighty says,
yes,
كل عمل ابن آدم له إلا الصوم فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به الجنة. All the deeds and actions of human being belong to him except fasting. It is for me, and I am the one who is giving the reward for this action. Now one might argue that all our actions, we are the ones who are performing, we are the ones who are doing. So in this regard, they belong to us. And when we are talking about acts of worship,
yes,
then we are directing these deeds and good actions to Allah the Almighty, aiming to be rewarded in the hereafter, in this life and in the hereafter. So they all belong in this sense to Allah the Almighty.
That's the general understanding.
That's the general understanding. So how can we understand this narration. It's like, let's give the example of a father or one of parents who admires something done by one of his children. And he is going to say, in front of the rest of the brothers and sisters, in front of his other children,
yes,
this is my son. Now, it doesn't mean that others are not his son.
Okay.
It means that he is admiring what he has done.
So the son has something special.
He is showing the special relationship between him and this child because of what he has done. It's exactly the same.
But it doesn't mean the rest of the children are not his.
Of course, yes. So it is because it is a very special act of worship. And as we have said, sincerity is the cornerstone in this act of worship. The only one who is well aware, who knows everything, is Allah the Almighty. Whether you are truly fasting or not, whether you are fasting to fulfill the commandments of Allah the Almighty and to reach righteousness and to fulfill the spiritual needs within yourself or not, the one who is well aware of all of that is Allah the Almighty. So once you are in the right path, then you deserve to be described as this action belongs to Allah the Almighty. You reach this special status between you and Allah the Almighty. So this explains how important sincerity is when we are talking about fasting.
Sheikh, I want to break down the concepts of spirituality and piety a little bit more, in the sense that you cannot gauge them. So how do I understand, or how do I monitor myself to know whether am I spiritual or not? Am I, righteous or not? Because these things cannot be gauged. So as a believer, how do I do that?
Again, a very interesting question. Now, we all know that when it comes to our physical faculties, we have limits.
Yes.
When it comes to our intellectual faculties, we do have limits. Yes. All human beings. And that's why we differ. But when it comes to spirituality, although there are limits, but the circles of spirituality are much wider than the physical faculties and the intellectual faculties.
Yes.
That's why we can enrich more our spirituality while doing this act of worship as per the commandments of Allah the Almighty and per the prophetic sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We are going to experience something that no one can experience unless he or she encounters the same experience of fasting.
Yes.
I'm not talking theories or principles that are not practical. I am here talking about very practical, witnessed experiences. That's why you find Muslims all over the world, they enjoy fasting to the extent that even young children, they insist that they want to fast, and even a few hours throughout the day. They want also to experience breaking the fast when the family members are gathering together to break their fast at the sunset, waiting for the adhan of al-Maghrib to be chanted. You will find that even small kids are around there, conveying that it is time of adhan, and they want to experience this.
Because they get excited.
They get excited because they can see the excite and the enjoyment of all the family members. So it's a very good experience, but we cannot detach it as a spiritual experience from intellectualism, from physical actions. And what we are talking here about is just to make it very clear. Otherwise, this is one of the pillars of Islam. It is an act of worship. it is a demonstration of one's submission to Allah's will.
I always wondered, Sheikh, that we have so many spiritual practices in our faith, but we find that fasting is the only spiritual practice that is unified. Even for the people who are not practicing throughout the year, but when it comes to the month of Ramadan, there is something within themselves that triggers and makes them adhere to this practice. And as you put it rightfully, they're very excited for this particular practice. Although this practice has to do with some element of pain, like hunger and thirst, yes, and depriving yourself from the leisures of life. But how come, Muslims from around the world, they are so excited? I even recently heard that some people of other faiths, when it comes to the month of Ramadan, they also join the Muslims in fasting. So what is the secret behind fasting?
Well, we cannot say for certain what is it, except that this is something from Allah the Almighty. He is the Creator, and He is the only one deserves to be worshipped, and He, the Almighty, has bestowed upon this act of worship all these secrets that we can enjoy and experience. But let me just try and explain how is that happening.
Yes.
First, we can notice without any doubt that people's morality increases during the month of Ramadan in accordance to how good they are in their fasting.
Yes.
And
what do you mean how good they are in their fasting?
Yes. Now we will see that there are 3 or 4 elements in fasting.
Yes.
First, the abstinence from food, drink, any sexual intercourse during the days. So this is the physical part of it.
Okay.
And in the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty has explained to us, and the same thing we will find in the prophetic traditions, total explanation of how to fast. What are the things that might renders one's fasting invalid? How can we observe our actions? When to start, when to end our fast. This is the physical part of it. But in the month of Ramadan, in the same verses where we find Allah the Almighty commanded us to fast, we will find right away He is talking about the Holy Quran. That it is revealed in the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
And that it is guidance to all mankind. Hudan linnas wa bayyinatin min al-huda wal furqan. So Allah is talking about the month of Ramadan as the month of the Holy Quran, yes, because it was revealed from Allah the Almighty to the first heaven during the month of Ramadan. And when He is describing the Holy Quran, He is talking about guidance to mankind and evidence for all mankind. And the verses keeps talking about the blessings of the Holy Quran. And that's why you find Muslims always attaching their month of Ramadan with recitation of the Holy Quran, even competition of recital of
studying the
Quran, asking about the meaning of the Holy Quran, because it is a source of guidance. Now this is element number 2, that comes in the same passage in which Allah the Almighty is talking about fasting the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
Then the third element is supplications, dua and prayers that we are making.
For people who are from other faiths, Sheikh, what do we mean by supplication?
We are talking about prayers, raising our needs and weakness and all what we are looking for to, let's call it, the highest power, the creator, in any language, in a status of submission and believing that there is this great source, this mighty source that can fulfill my needs and answer my calls.
And there is no doubt all human beings have needs.
Well, nowadays, unfortunately, there are people who are trying to draw some doubts about this.
Yes.
But deep down in their intuitions, they do realize the fact that there is a supreme power that is governing and controlling all this universe and all this world and our life. And that's why in occasions of weakness, in occasions of sudden accidents that one might experience, they turn their faces towards this supreme power. Mm-hmm. They feel it deep down in their hearts.
So if all the doors are
closed,
it is no other alternative. Absolutely. So they seek
absolutely. So this is what we are talking about here. The month of Ramadan is the month of supplication and calling Allah the Almighty to fulfill our needs. When we are talking about to fulfill our needs, the legitimate needs,
yes,
the reasonable, everything that we are looking for, but not to experience unjust against others or to ask for doing unjust to others or to be more greedy in this life or to make it easy to go astray in this life. No, these are unfortunately against what we are talking about. We are talking about kindness. We are talking about things that are acceptable, reasonable, things that, as you said, when we feel that all doors are closed, then it is this supreme door that we are going to knock with sincerity, with humbleness, in any language. Even if we are lost and we don't know which path should we follow, then we will ask for guidance. And if we are sincere enough, then He is going to fulfill, to answer our calls. Now, this is the third element. The fourth one is a voluntarily act of worship that is associated with the month of Ramadan. Allah the Almighty has talked about it again in the same passage in which He is talking about fasting the month of Ramadan and commanding us to fast the month of Ramadan. And this act of worship is to practice i'tikaf. What is i'tikaf?
Seclusion, yeah.
Seclusion.
Yes.
Which includes meditation, seeking more spirituality, disconnecting from all worldly matters in a mosque while fasting. If it is throughout the days, then one must be fasting. Now, of course, if it is during the month of Ramadan, which is more preferred, then one is fasting. But if it is not in the month of Ramadan, if it is any other days, then one has to be fasting during the days. He is going to spend his time, he or she, and we may talk about the details in a later occasion, inshallah.
Inshallah.
But they are going to spend their time remembering Allah the Almighty, chanting words of remembrance, reciting the Holy Quran, contemplating
the night prayers as well,
observing night prayers. So they will detach themselves as they could from all worldly matters. Now, talking about this, which I said is known as i'tikaf, comes in the Holy Quran, again in the same passage in which Allah the Almighty is talking about the month of Ramadan, and the verse is talking about the rulings and instructions of fasting the month of Ramadan.
Sheikh, I want to go back a little bit to a word that you mentioned, which is meditation. And meditation is associated with spirituality most of the time. you find people, sometimes they're concerned whether I should attach myself with an organized religion to attain spirituality or to practice meditation, or should I only, as a human being, figure out a way where I can meditate and I can reach the level of spirituality. So the question is, do I need to follow a particular faith to be spiritual, or can I be just someone who doesn't believe in anything and I am spiritual?
This is very deep, Sheikh Hatim, because nations, people have gone astray in their pursuit of spirituality.
Yes.
But never in the history of mankind, Allah the Almighty has left spirituality to people to decide. This is an Islamic fact. It is not up to people. Even if they are prophets and messengers, it is not up to them to decide how Allah the Almighty is to be worshipped. They are only messengers. They are conveying what Allah the Almighty is asking them to convey to mankind. But what happened throughout history is that, as I said, people in their search for spirituality, they invented ways and means claiming that they are going to purify their souls, attaching closer themselves to Allah, the Creator.
Yes.
And here they fall into the trap of going astray and being heedless of Allah the Almighty.
Yes.
Because now, in theory, let's just give a reasoning analogy. As a matter of fact, in Islamic faith, Allah the Almighty is the only one deserves to be worshipped. Now, He hasn't left us lost. He has guided us for the ways by which we can worship Him with. It is not up to us to decide.
So we don't come up with the practices.
We cannot invent our own practices. That's why no spiritual actions to be outside the borders of religion. So when it comes to Islam, it is our religion that will decide for us how to practice acts of worship, all the righteous deeds, whatever will bring us closer to Allah the Almighty and purify our souls and remove all the diseases from our hearts and become more human beings, dignified human beings. All these are only to be taken from the teachings of Islam. Now, one might claim that we can find other ways in some practices, some cultures, some in Islam. This doesn't work at all. We have to take it for granted. This is a fact. Islam is very sensitive, very accurate, very precise on this point in particular.
Yes.
No spiritual act to be taken outside or taken from any source outside the Islamic sources, i.e. the Holy Quran, the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Otherwise, we are going to end up having versions of our religion, and these versions are importing some practices
and ideologies
from different cultures, faiths, other religions, and this is not Islam. Islam is what has been revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam from Allah the Almighty in the Holy Quran, and what He has conveyed to us. So we cannot, and there is no way for anyone to claim that he or she is going to derive ways of spiritualism from any other faith, from any other culture, because they found that it is fruitful and it works for them. It doesn't go this way, and we have seen that some practices, people claiming that they are spiritual practices, they are derived from infidels, Persians, people of no faiths at all, worldly religions, not even heavenly religions. Now we are not talking about these cultures. We are talking about Islam. Allah the Almighty has provided us with all the ways, all the needs that we acquire to increase our spirituality, to be moderate and fair when it comes to balancing between the necessities of a human being, because again, even spirituality, it cannot be at the account of our physical needs.
Yes.
Or our intellectualism.
So you're meaning not to exclude yourself from worldly matters, like being in a monastery where you don't eat certain things, yes. You don't have practices like getting married, yes. And you don't wear certain clothes.
Now, if we remember when I was talking about i'tikaf,
yes,
one can easily get to the conclusion that one is fasting, reciting the Holy Quran, because Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Making supplication and calls and prayers to Allah the Almighty. The highest level that one can reach is adding an act of i'tikaf.
Yes.
Yet in the same verse in the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty is talking about i'tikaf. He is talking about the marital intercourse between spouses.
Spouses, mashallah.
In the same verse, not in the verse before, not in the verse after, which is to indicate the balance required to weigh between spirituality and the physical actions, the physical needs or necessities, yes. That are forming a moderate, balanced human being.
The perfect version of spirituality.
Absolutely.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Kahlan bin Al Kharusi, the Assistant Grand Mufti of the Sultanate of Oman, for being with us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Inshallah, and see you next time, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you, Sheikh.
Dear brothers and sisters, the viewers and the listeners, you've been listening to Seeking Guidance with Sheikh Kahlan bin Al Kharusi, the Assistant Grand Mufti of the Sultanate of Oman. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.